Very good life. Sophie lives down in Athboy, is supported by her family. She has her own apartment, has a job, and what we're going to hear now from Kate, her sister, is how she's actually managed to achieve all that. So, Kate.
Thanks to Fiona and Jonathan, what a great talk. I'm just going to open up mine here. And I'm afraid Sophie doesn't want to talk to us at the moment, so it's just me. So I guess everybody is really geared towards talking about independent living today, and I'm going to explain how we helped Sophie get to that point. But the first thing to understand about our family is if you wanted an ideal of how to get somebody to independent living, somebody like Sophie to independent living, our family is the exact opposite of that ideal. So we're based in Athboy in County Meath, and there's 4 children. I'm the eldest, and my father has a high-powered job and is working in Dublin, so he's not in Athboy a lot. My mother is from Athboy and grew up there, so she has a good connection to there. Myself and my 2 other siblings, my brothers, all went away to boarding school. We have 0 connection with Athboy anymore. So literally the only 2 people who have a connection with Athboy is my mother and my sister. So that's the first big problem in terms of a support network in the town. The second problem is that Sophie went to a special school in Delvin, which is outside of Athboy. It's like a 20-minute drive away. And so it's been really an uphill struggle to get Sophie integrated into the community. And I'll talk a bit about that later. So she went to a special school until she was 19, and then the only option was a sheltered workshop, a day centre, 5 days a week in Athboy itself. And she regressed dramatically once she started attending there. She was there from when she was age 19 until she was 27. And it was probably the worst period of our family's life, because she fell into serious depression. She had grave behavioural problems, and she stopped eating. She became really quite anorexic, is really the best way to describe it. And we just didn't know what to do. Sophie has a lot of communication problems, so she wasn't able to tell us what was wrong, or so we thought, but she was actually telling us what was wrong. We just weren't able to interpret it. We weren't open enough to understand that that's what she was telling us by all of these actions. So during that period, the only respite really for her and for my parents was her coming up to me to Dublin every second weekend or so. That was literally it. That was her life. So she got to see how I was living and how my brothers were living away from home and having our independent existence and our jobs and all of this. This obviously all fed into her own frustrations at not being able to emulate us. And so this went on, as I said, for a long period. My mother was writing consistently to the institution which governed her funding, which was the Sisters of Charity of Mary and Jesus, and they're based in Mullingar. So what happened was that they had a pilot scheme which they set up under their Marisha Foundation, and the pilot scheme was called a person-centred wing. And because of my mother's persistence in looking for an alternative for Sophie, she was the first person put on this pilot scheme. She would have also fitted the profile, I think, in terms of age, and also that she had quite a lot of ability, I suppose. So she was appointed a coordinator, a young woman around the same age as Sophie, which was really important because this was somebody that Sophie could relate to. And this young woman got to know Sophie. She spent a long time, about a good 6 months, doing whatever Sophie did, coming to visit me with Sophie, spending time with our parents, a lot of talking, wore us out. We were bet with all this talking about what we could do and how we could help Sophie. We were exhausted with it. But what she found out, and what she found out from Sophie, was what Sophie wanted. And what Sophie wanted was the same life that I had. She wanted her own home and she wanted a job. And so when it became apparent that she wanted her own home, we decided we'd take this on, and we looked for an apartment. I say we, my mother did most of this, because I was up in Dublin. So she found an apartment that was a 5-minute walk away from our own home, and in a really nice, quiet area. Not a sheltered accommodation in any shape or form, just a normal apartment in the town. It was rented for Sophie. And so we talked about it, and we were kind of thinking, gosh, maybe she could try and sleep there a couple of nights a week to see how she likes it, and nothing too crazy straight away, and just ease herself into it. The weekend she got the keys, she packed up and she left. And she did not come home. She did not come home for a good 3 months. She wouldn't even visit. She was gone. And we realised then, of course, that this was really, really was what she wanted. And the amount of skills that Sophie had to learn in a really early, in that really early period, in a really short space of time, was incredible. And we had completely underestimated her. We had spent her whole life doing everything for her. It was, when I think about it, we were so foolish. She learned how to work the lock. She learned how to use a phone. She hadn't used a phone. She learned how to cook. She learned how to do the washing. Everything that we had just spent all our lives doing for her, she just got out there and learned it. Now, how did we do all of this? Well, the Marisha Foundation, as I said, had this person-centred wing. And so they were able to, because they were in control of her funding, essentially, for the day centre, they were able to extract that and individualise it. So the money went with Sophie, and she was able to use it then to fund this new life. And the way that it still works, I think it's about 30 grand a year in or around, and what that pays for is about 10 hours support work every week. So literally, a couple of hours every day, somebody will call in to Sophie and make sure that she is okay with making the meals, and does she need anything at all. But really the most important thing that we want the support workers for is integrating in the community. That's really their crucial role. So we try to ensure that they're young women that Sophie will relate to. Sophie always is involved in their employment. She has to like them. And it's really to try and get her out there. Now, this is one of the big challenges, and today is an example of that. Sophie doesn't always want to engage with people. She doesn't always want to socialise. And it can be really easy for her just to stay at home and just watch telly and whatever. And so there's this balance that has to be struck between allowing her to do whatever she wants and live her life whatever way she wants, but also to ensure that she doesn't fall into a black pit, which she can sometimes if she's just at home on her own all the time. So there's an element of trying to get her to do things that she will like doing. So, for example, she'll be going to see the Vamps at the end of the month. That's a band that she likes. So that's an ongoing challenge. And really, what I would say to people here is anybody who is lucky enough to be in a situation where their kids are going through the mainstream process and is connected with their community in that way, I say grab onto that opportunity now and develop that and really make that work for you, because really the big thing that Sophie misses out on is the fact that she does not have a lot of peers who are her friends in the community. And I think if she had gone through the mainstream system, there would be people who would be still around the town, who would know her, who would knock into her, who would you know, bring her out for a drink, bring her out for a cup of coffee, you know, and that's really sadly lacking from her life. So as much as we do and as much as we use all of the resources to try and bring that on, that's a big problem, an ongoing problem. So I'm actually just going to run through some photos that Sophie would have presented. She has presented these before herself, but she didn't want to today. She's not feeling the vibes. So this was when Sophie signed her lease. So she was 27. You might see that she's actually really, really thin. She was still really, really, I was just discussing this with my mum. She was, it took a long time for her to get over that. So she got a job in a creche as a kitchen assistant. Paula Jane, her coordinator, is unbelievably brilliant at just getting out there and asking people to take Sophie on. Now, when I say a job, she's not being paid. This is an ongoing struggle that you all know about. So she's a kitchen assistant for 2 days a week initially, and recently, luckily enough, she got some training with FOSS, and so it's gone up to 4 days, and they've agreed to give her a voucher at the end of the month in lieu of payment. But this is, like, it's really important because she's much more enthusiastic about going to work because she knows she's going to get the money at the end of the month. You know, the work has been a massive part of her happiness and her sense of self-worth. So I think really that's another area that I think generally as a society we need to work on, but not to be afraid, I guess, of going out and asking people to help. So yeah, she's an aunt. She's, you know, a really valued member of my family, and my kids love her. She's a committee member, so this was one of the things that Paula Jane did to try and get her out into the community. She joined the local Machrin Firma and was on their committee for helping to organise the Blue Jean Country Queen, and she went around to all of the shops and communities to ask for money to help, and you know, it was great because it was hard to say no to Sophie. It was a good idea. She was a volunteer, and before, when she became a kitchen assistant, she was just doing it 2 days a week, and she also on a Friday would volunteer at the local lunch club, so she'd for the elderly. She stopped doing that since her job has gone up to 4 days a week, and she did that for a really long period of time. She's a holiday maker. Sophie has travelled. 2 years ago, she flew on her own to London to visit my brother, and we're hopefully going to organise another trip this summer for her to go to Paris to see her other brother on her own. There was a support group who did help her through the airport. Yeah, she did it, you know. So that's it, really.
Right, coffee. What I'd like you to do, folks, first of all, just to reassure everybody, there will be plenty of opportunity for discussion and questions for all the speakers later on during the day. But we've kept you away from coffee for far too long. So what I'd like you to do, in a very orderly fashion, the coffee's over there. We'd like coffee to be finished by 20 to 12, okay? We have a couple of extra speakers that we are going to ask to join us. So if you could, take your time getting the coffee, but when you get it, come back quick, okay? Thank you very much.